Hello, Crafty Crandall here, and today I wanted to discuss my recent reads. I know that I said I was going to do a video about this quite some time ago, and I have got a couple of books to talk about today. I'm actually going to discuss these books in reverse chronological order from the time that I read them, because I am most excited to talk about The Black Prism by Brent, and typically people only watch a certain quantity of my videos, so I want to talk about the one that I'm most excited about first, and then I've got a list of the others in the description for you so that you can see which books will be talked about, and I will link timestamps down below if you want to skip to a specific book. With that said, The Black Prism by Brent is about a man who is referred to as the Prism. Essentially surrounding this magic system in this book, people are imbued with the ability to control light in different wavelengths of light. So different wavelengths of light being different colors. So the Prism, in this case his name is Gavin, is able to basically manipulate all forms of light from like sub-red light to super violet light and every form in between. And he is able to do so without consequence. So Gavin is our main character in this book, and we are essentially following him on his journey as he finds out that he has a son and essentially goes to find that son and basically embarks on a mission from there that ends up causing a war. So Gavin, the Prism, is able to control all the light spectrums. Everyone else in this world has various degrees of being able to control the light. So some people have no ability to control it. They are just the common people. And then some people can only control one color. Some people control multiple colors. But everybody but the Prism that can control this light is essentially reducing their lifespan every single time that they do it. So Gavin is the only one that can do so without repercussion. I found this plot to be so interesting. It is a really quick read for the size. It's a pretty long book, but it definitely moves very quickly. There are a lot of great characters in this book. I found that the character interactions were probably my favorite part. There are just a wide range of really great characters, and they're a lot of fun to read from. The plot, while intricate, and the magic system, again, while intricate, I felt were very easily followed in the way that they were portrayed. That said, I will say that the book kind of had a little bit of telling rather than showing. It was very, I think that added to the ease of understanding, but at the same time, at some points, it was a little bit frustrating that it was just like an info dump upon you. Additionally, some of the descriptions in this book were a little bit frustrating. There is a lot of emphasis on weight, and there is a lot of emphasis on like women, like feminine parts, if you will. So I didn't love that about it, and that actually is pretty consistent in the writing style from what I can see. I've started reading the second book, and that carries throughout. So if that's kind of like something that's going to put you off from reading this, just be aware. Otherwise, though, I think that the author does a great job of telling the story, and it really is an interesting story, so I would recommend this for anyone interested in kind of like a high fantasy, really kind of longer plot-driven book, but also character-driven book. I'd say that it definitely has a good mix of both, and the magic system kind of grows as the story is told, so it's very interesting in that regard as well. Additionally, the series is quite long, and these books are like in and of themselves quite long, so if you're ready for a long haul series, I think this would be a good one. I gave this book a 4.5 stars out of 5, and I am excited to continue on with the second one. Moving on to the next most recent book that I have read, we have The Magicians by Lev Grossman. Now, in stark contrast to The Black Prism, I think that this book has a very strange plot. Essentially, this book is following our main character, Quentin, as he finds out that he has an innate magical ability. He's always kind of suspected and always had a very high interest in like fantastical realms, and so if something like that were possible, he would really, love that. And so when it comes to fruition that he is in fact a magical being. He enters this school and is essentially thrust forward in learning magic at this school and basically leaving his old life behind, which he is very happy to do so. Basically, he was a senior in high school trying to just get into Princeton, get into, you know, an Ivy League school, and now with this magical education, he is no longer forced to do that. So I liked the concept of this book. The first half of this book was really what I thought the whole book would be. The first half of the book is actually Quentin's magical education. Like, that is the 5 years that he spends in school. Unfortunately, the second part of this book, I completely lost interest. I DNF'd this book because after the portion of the magical education, he then embarks on like a completely separate plot from, you know, learning about magic, and I just didn't care. Like, so essentially in the beginning of the book, Quentin is like fascinated with these magical realms that he's read about his entire life, and the second part of the plot is more so exploring that and like the realities behind that. But by the time we got there, I felt like I had already read a whole book. Like, the timing of this book was very poor in my opinion. It just got to the point where I didn't care. It was really poorly paced. It was very hard to read. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. The magic system didn't have a firm foundation. There were a ton of really strange things that went on in this book. To be honest, after having seen part of the television show for this series, I would say it's pretty well in line. Like, the TV show has a lot of weird things going on. The book has a lot of weird things going on. It's not a great book, in my opinion. I did not like this book. I would give it 0 stars, obviously, since I DNF'd it, and I would not recommend picking it up. The next book that I read is The Gifted School by Bruce Holsinger. This book was a super fast contemporary read. It is essentially following various students and parents of children in Crystal, Colorado, where they are launching a gifted school program. And so we're kind of forced into the repercussions of that, given that certain students will be accepted, certain students will not, and kind of the privilege that these students have. So they live in a very privileged society. We also get to follow one of the underprivileged students as well, as he also is testing into this school. So although there's not much, if any, content at the new school, the book is essentially the precursor for that. So this program is announced. What are the repercussions in society that kind of has? And more specifically, what are the repercussions within this social group of people? It was a very quick read. Interesting read. I liked the fact that we had perspectives, again, from the students and the parents. It was kind of nice to get that back and forth. It was also, I like reading about, you know, overprivileged people and people of a higher socioeconomic class. And so it was kind of interesting to see the dynamic between those people and the people of lower socioeconomic class. I thought it did a really good job, a really accurate representation of what something like that might look like. And although the plot doesn't have like a heavy hitting like twists to it or anything of the sort, it was interesting to read. The ending does have sort of, like I said, a twist to it, but to be honest, the ending kind of fell a little bit flat for me. I wasn't surprised by the ending. I think that it was pretty clear what was going to happen from about the middle of the book, so it wasn't really all that surprising, but at the same time, it was interesting to see, again, the different students and how they work toward getting into this school, the projects that they choose, and the interactions between the various characters and their socioeconomic backgrounds. The final book that I read is Shorefall by Robert Jackson Bennett. I don't have a physical copy of this book, and to be honest, I'm grateful that I don't, because I would end up unhauling it. Shorefall is the sequel to Foundry Side, also by Robert Jackson Bennett. This book was such a disappointment. I really thought that Foundry Side like set up for a specific plot to happen, and Shorefall felt like it just dragged on and on and on and on needlessly. There was no point, in my opinion, to Shorefall's existence. It was very frustrating. Literally, the happenings of Shorefall could have been summed up in like 1 or 2 chapters at the end of Foundry Side, and then we could have jumped into book 3. Like, book 2, Shorefall, did not need to exist, in my opinion. I was very disappointed. The timing didn't make sense. The characters didn't get any better. No, there were new characters introduced, but they were no better to me than any of the already existing characters. I really, really wanted to love the villain. Unfortunately, he was just okay. Like, he wasn't great. He wasn't terrible. For anyone who has not read Foundry Side, I apologize. Let me backpedal just a little bit. So, Foundry Side is essentially a world in which there is a lot of magical elements in that people can scribe objects to have a different reality than what they would typically have in our world. So objects can be inscribed with the reality that it is moving, or the reality that it is defying gravity, the reality that it's stronger than it is, that it's containing something that it's not, etc. The magic system of this world was so interesting to me, and that makes it even more disappointing that these books flopped, in my opinion. So frustrating, but that was just the reality of the situation. I don't know if I'm gonna pick up the 3rd one. I don't think I am. Honestly, I think I've wasted enough time with this series, and I don't think that there's a way that it could redeem itself, because I don't like the characters. I absolutely detest the romance. I don't really like the villain, which is surprising for me because I usually love the villain. And they're long books again. Like, I don't want to invest my time in something that's ultimately going to be a disappointment at the end. So I might look up some reviews, I might see what other people are saying about it, but to be honest, Shorefall left such a bad taste in my mouth that I don't think I'm going to continue with this series. As far as writing goes, I would definitely say that this is more of like a 2-star read for me, in that it was very well presented. I liked the writing style. I think that other people will absolutely love this series. Like, if you connect with the characters on a more fundamental level than I did, I do think that you'll love this series. Like, the magic system, again, is so interesting. I love the magic system. I just think that the characters flopped, and overall the plot just didn't hold my interest, because it had what I would consider to be middle book syndrome. Very, very much. So with that, thank you guys so much for watching. That wraps up my recent read. I am currently reading The Blinding Knife by Brent, continuing on with the Black Prism series, which is so interesting, and I'm very much enjoying it. So that will feature in another recent reads sometime in the future. Let me know down in the comments below if you think there's any books that you think I would enjoy based on the books that I enjoyed out of this list, or books that I should steer away from based on the ones that I did not like. Let me know your opinions on the books down below in the comments as well. Feel free to like or subscribe if you liked this video. I post new art and book related content every single Tuesday and occasionally on Friday. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will catch you in the next one. Bye!